Good morning. Here we are. Chance here with the virtual Y for your Monday gentle yoga practice. Yoga. Sometimes we get it confused and think it's just about fitness, just about working out or sweating. But yoga simply means to unite, to join your mind and body with the present moment. And this can be very relaxing. It doesn't have to be exerting, but sometimes a little bit of exertion deepens our capacity to relax. So no matter how you practice yoga, make sure you don't practice it in a way that makes you never want to practice it again. Because when everything is together in the present moment, when you are here with your body and your mind in the same place, in the here and now, there is an infinite abundance of possibility. So this practice is not just to make you sweat or make you stronger. Of course, those things may happen. You'll definitely get stronger. You might not sweat, but you will definitely find yourself present. And in the present, possibility is abundant. So let's start comfortably seated. Sit up tall and notice what kind of work it takes. Where do you feel the work taking place? In your back? Where do you feel stiff or tense? Not everybody can cross their legs. Don't worry about crossing your legs. Maybe your legs are out in front of you. Maybe one leg's pulled in. But we do want a long, low back. And as we're here, start to notice the symmetry in your body. Where does it feel like more work to sit up tall? Where do you feel stiff or tense? Where does it feel easy? And as you're putting your attention in this present moment, remember, this is all we have to do is be aware of how we feel. Let's start to deepen the breath. One of the primary tools of practicing yoga is the breath, because the breath is one of those things that you can be completely conscious of or completely unconscious of. Therefore, if you bring consciousness to it, it brings your attention to the present moment. Also, the breath has many numerous biochemical, signals, and it's kind of the guide for the rest of our systems. So paying attention to how we breathe is the simplest way to not only find your way present, but to start to change your current biochemical, physiological situation, the way you feel. So let's start breathing in through the nose a little more deeply. Follow the breath in to the body, to the depths, as deeply as you can draw in, and fill the lungs all the way up to the top after you draw as deep down as you can get. Then draw as deeply up as you can get. And as you exhale, don't just dump out the breath. Use some care in the way that your breath leaves your body. And as you notice, just slowing down the breath, becoming more aware, might first make you feel a little physically uncomfortable, and then a natural side effect or a natural response to slowing down is that your mind wants to speed up. Your mind wants to go somewhere else. And it might jump to something more entertaining. It might go to the past. It might try to go to the future. It might just try to go to somewhere else. But noticing the mind trying to leave, trying to go to its familiar routines, we just guide our attention back to the breath without judgment, without, negative self-talk. Just notice that your mind is going to leave, and the practice is about bringing it back again and again to the quality of the breath. So back to the breath, we're just breathing to the lowest part of our body to the highest part of our body, and then exhaling in a smooth and controlled way. And we can add in a little bit of texture, a little bit more detail to the breath by creating a little constriction in the back of the throat. So you can hear that breath coming and going. In and out through the nose. You kind of want to sound like you're deeply asleep. What happens when you do this? It's pretty awesome, the amount of cues that your body takes from the way that you're breathing. So when you make this sound like you're sleeping deeply, you might feel a little wave of relaxation, or you might feel a little bit more worked in the places in your body where you're breathing and those muscles are ignored or neglected during your normal day. So just through breathing, we're already changing our chemical state. One more use one more technique we're going to use is the bandhas, or the bandhas, the group of muscles that lock down our spine. They squeeze and hug everything in, and those muscles oftentimes get very neglected. We don't use them as frequently as we should. So this is, what might make you start sweating, because it feels like a workout if these muscles don't get a lot of work. So the first lock we're going to use is the pelvic floor, the root lock, the Mula Bandha. And we lift this just like a kegel, pulling up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom. Everything from the bottom of the pelvis, we lift up and in, and feel that squeezing, that shifting, that work as we draw in the soft tissue to fill that cavern. Next, we release that lock just by gently letting go, but not just dropping it. We want to let it go just like our exhales, with a little bit of care, with a little bit of pace. So then we'll lift that lock again. After we reach all the way released with that lock, then we lift it again. And just like the breath, big, slow, careful movements, and just notice what takes place in the body. One more lock we'll be using is the Uddiyana Bandha, the upward flying lock. And we're going to lift the belly button in toward the spine. We're sucking our belly button in and scooping upward. This hugs in all the abdominal organs and activates a group of muscles along the middle and low spine. Lift and release along with the breath. Maybe you lift the bandhas on the inhales and release them on the exhales. Maybe you lift the bandhas on the exhales and release them on the inhales. Maybe you lift them for an inhale and an exhale and release them for an inhale and an exhale. Whatever works best for you. These are places to explore, to tinker, to hold your attention in the present moment, recognizing the amount of depth that's in your body in any moment. If your mind wants to wander, hey, it wanders. Bring it back. No problem. We have plenty of stuff to pay attention to. The spine long, the breath filling from the bottom to the top, and the bandhas lifting and releasing how we see fit, okay? Next thing we're going to do is make our way to a tabletop position. If this is really hard on your knees, don't worry, we won't be here long. You could skip this part if you need to. Remember that it all comes down to the comfort of your body, being able to be aware where the comfort is, and then being able to ease toward the edge of our comfort zone. That's how we stretch mindfully and safely. So let's spread the fingers. Squeeze each fingerprint into the mat, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky, and thumb, and then rotate the shoulders to point the elbow creases forward, the points of the elbows back, and press the tops of the feet into the mat. Trying to get your shins onto the ground as best you can. Don't worry if you can't. And then traction the legs and the hands towards each other to feel what takes place in the low and mid back. Bring your attention to your breathing. Draw your shoulders away from your ears. If it comes, let it come. If it goes, let it go. And we're just observing in the present moment. You can sway the hips a bit from side to side. Gratitude for all that you find here. Notice where it's stiff or tight. We just don't want to find sharp shooting pains. If you find sharp shooting pains, really ease off. But if you feel just a little bit of pressure, a little tension, maybe lean into it a little bit, see what's going on. Let's bring the big toes to touch, knees wide on the mat, walk the hands forward. And as your hands are walking forward, traction the hands into the ground, externally rotate the shoulders. That means pressing the elbows and forearms into the ground as well. And then pulling the ground back toward you to lengthen the spine. To activate the arms, the armpits, the shoulder blades, to broaden across the front of the chest. And from here, let's try lifting those bandhas, the pelvic floor, the belly button. See how differently they feel in this shape. If it's comfortable, you can always come back to this pose or just remain seated. You don't have to do too much. Simply be aware of your breath and your bandhas. We're going to take one pose here that's a little bit more intense. So, of course, feel free to skip this one, but it's going to be a down dog. Squeeze the hands into the mat, flip the toes under, send the hips high. Now, to make this good for your muscles and safe for your joints, you want to squeeze the hands into the mat so you're not just dumping weight into the wrists. And you want to externally rotate your shoulders to point the points of the elbows toward the ground. This takes the weight off the joints and puts it into the muscles. Next, we press our heart back toward our thighs. Press the crown of the head toward the mat. Take one more big breath here. And lower down to a tabletop position. Next, let's take a cat-cow pose. If you have a mat or something cushy to put under your knees, if your knees are really sore here, maybe you can fold your mat over to double up the padding. Whatever feels good in your body, maybe a folded blanket, or even if you're on some pillows, it might mess with your balance a little bit, but hey, protect your knees if they're gentle or fragile. So let's take some cat-cow poses. On your inhale, we'll take cow pose. Lowering your belly, lifting your chest, tractioning your hands and feet into the ground. Drag everything towards each other. This engages and lengthens the spine. And we don't want to overarch our low back, so keep pulling forward on your heart. Feel that arching reaching up to your upper back, not just your lower back. And pull your shoulders away from your ears. Your next exhale will round through the spine, tuck the chin, hollow out the chest. And from here, we pull in on the bandhas and continue to traction those hands and feet towards each other. Big breaths. Your inhales come to cow pose. Exhales to cat pose. Move very slowly, very briefly. If it's too hard on your knees, that's all right. You can sit on the ground and just gently arch your back on your inhales, lifting your chin, and round your spine on your exhales, pulling your shoulders forward, tucking your chin, rolling your tailbone forward. Take what feels good for you. We're just slowly being all the way aware of our spine, noticing what kind of pressure we might be holding on to, noticing how the breath and the bandhas continue to reveal to us those little corners of the body that we've overlooked, those places that might be tense or tight, sore or stiff. The reason why we want to address these places, to bring awareness back to these places, is because your body begins to repair and unclog those spots. And if we just continue to neglect those spaces, well, that's where our body is more prone to infection and spaces where viruses can catch on and reproduce. So ultimately, your entire immune system really benefits from you stretching and being aware. Of course, breathing better, moving your body. All of these things help to clear out these blocked spaces in our body. Good. Now that we are good and warmed up in the spine, perhaps press back to a down dog if that feels good. And when you're ready, walk your feet up to your hands. And we'll gently fold forward. Option for a ragdoll pose here, where you capture your opposite elbows with your hands. A nice bend in the knees, soften the feet. Really notice where the weight is distributed in your feet. Bend the knees a little bit. Relax the shoulders. Relax the face. Breathe deeply to find the edges of how far your lungs can expand comfortably. And release both hands to the mat. Slowly rise to stand. Shoulders and head are the last to come up. At the top, we'll shrug the shoulders up, back, and down. Do that just a couple times to see what shifted. We'll take a very easy mountain pose here. I'm going to face the camera just so you can see head on. Feet shoulder width distance apart. Make sure the outsides of your hips are right above the outsides of your feet. Softening the feet into the ground, softening the muscles between the bones, and tractioning the feet towards each other to engage the inner lines of the legs so you feel really warm and worked in the inner legs. Also, you're going to feel a little work in the low back there. Palms face forward, roll the tailbone under, soften the shoulders, reach up tall through the crown of the head. Couple nice deep breaths here. Just noticing wherever it feels easy, wherever it feels challenging. Big breaths all the way from the belly to the upper chest. Smooth exhales. Keep pulling in on those bandhas, your pelvic floor, your belly button. Any organic movement that helps you let go of any tension. And on your inhale, sweep the arms overhead. With your arms high, externally rotate the shoulders so the palms kind of point behind you. The pinkies are a little closer to each other. Notice the soles of your feet. A slight bend in the knees, a tractioning of the feet towards each other. Roll the tailbone slightly under. Lengthen in your low back. Lift up on your heart, but down on your shoulders. Take a couple more deep breaths here. Feeling how much is going on in this present moment. There's always this much going on. We've just practiced not paying attention so much that it seems like a lot of work being here and now. On your exhale, let's fold forward, tuck the chin, lead with the heart. On your inhale, we'll come up halfway to a halfway lift, so your chest is parallel to the ground. Draw your shoulders away from your ears, traction your feet into the ground, roll your knees towards each other to really feel some lengthening in the low back. Some activity right there in the low back. Pull in on the bandhas. Feel that squeezing, that hinge, and how that helps to lengthen the low back. Don't let your head sag. You can tuck your chin, but really try to reach the crown of your head as far forward from your tailbone as you can. We'll take one more inhale here. And exhale, fold forward. On your inhale, sweep your arms all the way high. Nice bend in the knees. Rise, reaching up high. And exhale, hands to heart center. I'm going to take a nice, easy flow. Inhale, sweep your arms high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep arms high. Be very slow, thoughtful how you rise. Feel your spine. And exhale, hands to heart center. Next, let's bring our feet a little wider, heels in, toes out. Not too wide here, but a little wider than our hips. Maybe our heels line up with our hips, or a little wider. And we'll take a yogi squat, just sitting very deeply. If this is hard on your knees, you can skip this part and just make your way to seated. Hands at heart center. You can press your elbows to the inner knees, lengthen your low back. Take a few deep breaths and use those bandhas. Relax your body, relax your face, relax around your heart, and send your attention to wherever you feel work or discomfort or disconnection. You don't need to feel pain in this practice, and if you do, ease off. Don't do anything that's painful. We want our body to let its guard down. Next, you can bring your hands to the ground, bring your feet together, and have a seat. Very good. A very quick core practice here. You can squeeze your knees together, sit up tall. Maybe this is comfortable for you. Pull in on your bandhas. If you want a little more intensity, maybe lift one foot. If you want even more, maybe lift both feet. Balancing on your sit bones, not too far back, onto your tailbone, long spine. You could also release your hands, keep squeezing the knees towards each other. You could also work to straighten your legs. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Pull in on those bandhas. And we'll gently lower down onto our back. Notice how your body feels, how laying down on the ground we can use the ground to traction our spine, to pull the spine long. A couple deep breaths. Hug the knees into the chest. As you squeeze yourself in tight, maybe it feels good to rock and roll a little bit. Keep the breath flowing rich. Notice if the mind has been distracted. Where does the mind wander to? Don't pay attention or don't spend too much time there. Just notice where it wandered to and bring the attention back to the here and now. That's what this practice is. We'll take a gentle twist, bringing the knees over to the left, right hand out to the right. You can pin your right shoulder blade to the mat. Point your chin towards your right hand. Breathe very deeply from the belly to the collarbones. Second side, we can bring the knees over to the right. Left hand out to the left. Pin the left shoulder blade to the mat. Point your chin toward the left hand. And we'll lay flat on our back, fully present in the moment. Take 3 deep breaths to see where you can soften in your body. What you've noticed about where there might still be work to do. Any moments, even if they're very fleeting, did you ever find yourself all the way here, not worried about the future or the past or elsewhere, but just completely here, complete in the moment? With practice, this becomes your natural way of being. Your routine way of being just becomes more present, because that's what we're practicing here. And when we become more present, we become more powerful and peaceful at the same time. Let's bring our arms long, legs long. Take a big breath in. Hug the knees into the chest. Squeeze yourself in tight. Roll down onto your right or left side. And return to a comfortable seated position. Check in on your body. How do you feel? The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to check out the other classes we have at the Virtual Y. Excellent teachers and offerings of all varieties of intensity and disciplines. So thanks again. Take care.